I'm interested to know that is there a market for a lightweight spaceship meant to be gaming mouse like this? Considering that heavier alternatives such as the Logitech G502 and the Razer Basilisk are very popular among gamers, it wouldn't be a stretch at all for me to predict that this might be a hit among the casual gamer market. We already know for a fact that RGB does improve your aim by about 10%, but I've also heard that the more there are buttons, the better your aim will be. It's of course the glorious Model I that we're gonna review, but more importantly I'm gonna tell you that can I actually aim with a mouse like this? And then of course I will give my opinion on the shape of the Model E, which is of course a Razer Basilisk / Logitech G502 clone. I never used the Razer Basilisk, but I did try the Logitech G502, but it was way too heavy for me. But luckily the Model E actually weighs 70 grams, so it's for sure not heavy for its size. The main mouse buttons are using the LethalGamingGear 8.0s and they are snappy and tactile, or at least my left click is. My right button is actually somewhat mushy, which is a little bit disappointing to see. And the left click reset feels kind of lazy, so when I actuate the button and release it, it kind of feels slow returning to the original position, which makes it kind of hard for me to spam in-game at least. The clicks are also fairly inconsistent in the sense that the click feel does change quite a lot depending on where you click the button from. The same applies for both of the buttons, but because this is mainly a claw or a palm grip mouse, you should have your fingers fairly locked into the positions where the clicks feel the best. There are 4 side buttons and 2 of these are changeable, so basically you can change them to how you want them to feel. The thing that these changeable buttons do is change the profile of the button, and you can only change this backside button and the sniper button, or whatever you want to call it again. The actuation itself is quite crispy and tactile on all of the side buttons, but there is quite a bit of pre-travel and also a lot of post-travel. So these end up feeling quite cheap for me. As you might figure out, I'm not quite experienced in using mice like these, but the side button placement for my hand size and grip style isn't perfect by any means. When I grip the mouse, I'm basically always touching the last 2 side buttons on the top side here, and I have to move my thumb quite a bit forward to press the sniper button or whatever you want to call it, and the forward side button. That may or may not be an issue for you, and it's kind of the same for me. It just depends on what kind of actions do I have bound to these side buttons. The scroll wheel feels basically like all glorious scroll wheels, so it's not heavy, not too tactile, but it's decent for games and general use. I myself would want more tactile steps though. Overall, the buttons and the side buttons are quite bad. And the main point of the mouse is pretty much the buttons, so it does not look that great. Moving on to mouse feet, and there are 6 small to medium kind of mouse feet. And the glide is quite fast, quite smooth on all my mousepads. And the glorious ascended cable is doing its job very well again. It's a top tier cable, very flexible, doesn't drag on your desk or your mousepad, and of course still easy to use with bungees. Oh, and of course the mouse is using the BAMF sensor from Glorious, which is of course pretty much a flawless sensor like most modern sensors these days. And finally, let's move on to shape. One of the more recognizable features is of course going to be the thumb rest on the right side. It's quite comfortable for me, but there is not that much room below the side buttons, so if you happen to have a larger thumb than I do, you might run into issues with space. The thumb curve of course has a nice curvature here, and also the right side is a little bit nicely curved, so it's thinner from the bottom as it is from the top, so it's easy to lift the mouse. It doesn't feel massive in my hands by any means when I claw grip, but I would describe it as a large mouse because it's very easy for me to palm grip this mouse, so the tips of my fingers are still resting on top of the mouse. And of course I have 19x10cm hands. Let's compare that to, for example, the X-Lite Wireless version 2, and if I would palm grip this in the way that I would want to, my fingers would reach over the mouse right here. Back to the Model I and specifically the top side of the mouse, so there is this ergonomic curvature on the right, as there usually is on ergonomic mice. Which of course means that there is a little bit more hump on the left side of the mouse as there is on the right. But the hump is more towards the middle of the mouse, so in my case, mostly the bottom of my palm will be touching the mouse. Overall, that's pretty much everything I want to say about the shape. Let's go see how I do with it in-game. So like I said, it's not exactly hard to micro-adjust. It feels when I'm missing a flick shot, all micro-adjustments feel very accurate and precise, easy to make, quite lovely. but my flick shots are really not on point. Because the mouse is so wide, it's just super hard for me to make a precise, fast flick, so I end up very often just micro-adjusting after the flick. Which is not great, not the worst thing in the world, but you don't want to do that. Spraying and sort of vertical aiming feels good, but not still the best, but very much okay. I would say that it's very easy to move this mouse vertically. I just do not quite know how to grip the mouse, so I just do not feel precise by any means. There is a lot of space on the right side of the mouse, and I'm not quite sure if I want to have my fingers extended in a relaxed position or more curled in an aggressive position. This is something that I could definitely get used to, but I just do not see the point. I don't need these extra buttons, and if you don't need them, do not get this mouse. But let's go DM and see how I do there. Well, it did go surprisingly well again. I was hitting nice headshots, but my first shot accuracy wasn't anywhere near its best, and quite often I was even missing that first burst altogether. I was expecting my aim to be completely trash, so I was quite happy to see that I was hitting some shots at least. But where the problems actually really started was tracking. In Kovacs, I was really struggling to keep up with the target in smooth pot. And as you can see, it was very much a struggle tracking with a shape like this. So overall, Glorious did release a mouse that has multiple buttons, and the main point of the mouse is buttons, but sadly the buttons are not great on the mouse. It is at least lightweight, so if you absolutely want a lightweight mouse that has multiple buttons all over the place, then this might be your bet. Otherwise, the button quality and the feel isn't quite up to par, and I would of course want to see Glorious improve this when the Glorious Model I wireless comes at some point. Let's quickly talk about Skillshare, and actually the first 1000 of you to use the link on the description or my code HAUSgaming will get a 1 month free trial of Skillshare. So you can start learning yourself right now. They've got plenty of great stuff. For example, for me there is video editing, video creation, video planning, web development and everything like that. The content is also very well made, there are no ads and it's very concise, which is very important for me who has a day job, has a YouTube channel and likes to game a lot. So I don't need to invest that much time, but I do get a lot of return value from there. I've been using Premiere Pro as long as I've been doing these YouTube videos for, but I never really got into After Effects. So I figured out that this would be a great time to learn, and I found this great guide from Jake Bartlett. I've been slowly learning as I go, and you should see the benefits in the future videos. Check out these 2 reviews right here if you want to see some lightweight mice that are actually good for competitive games. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you enjoy my content, hit that subscribe button and see you in the next one.